Hello, and welcome to another AAIS webinar. I'm John Kadous, Vice President of Products at AAIS. Today, we'll be taking a look at unlocking your core power, strengthening policy, claims, and customer interaction data through actionable insights. I'm joined today by AAIS partner OneShield, and our guest speakers include John Dunn, OneShield's Vice President of Sales for the Americas, and Travis Mayfield, OneShield's Reporting Product Manager. Together, we will discuss how carriers can leverage core system data effectively, transforming it into actionable insights that strengthen business decisions. John, Travis, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having us, John. Really excited to be here and discuss this important topic.
Yes, thanks for having us, John.
All right. Fantastic. Thanks, guys. So a reminder to our audience, we want to encourage you to engage with us throughout today's discussion. So be sure to submit your questions as they come up using the Zoom Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. We will keep an eye out and try to address those questions as we move along through today's conversation. We'll try to address those as you submit them. Those we don't get to, we will do our best to address at the end of today's sessions when we open up our live Q&A portion. With that, I will kick things off by passing over to John and Travis.
Thanks, John. Maybe we can start, Travis, by having you share with the audience what exactly we mean when we're talking about actual insights.
Absolutely. So actionable insights is curated data that allows the end user to make informed decisions and ask thoughtful questions. So in that definition, I think there's three components to actionable insights. The first and most critical is it's business focused. IT and core systems are critical in extracting actionable insights, but it's through business units and executives and collaborating with IT and your core system that make your data, take your data from two-dimensional to three-dimensional. The second component is it requires a clear requirement gathering framework. There's several different ways to get from request to generating a report that brings data to life. But adopting a framework will get you to start from start to finish a bit quicker and allow for a kind of a standardized approach that both the business unit and the IT unit will be able to get familiar with. And it is dependent on a clear data storage and visualization solution. So quality reporting solutions require a strategy that allows for the easy retrieval, transformation, and visualization of your data to go from raw data to meaningful insights that help in decision-making.
All right, thanks, Travis. Can you share with our audience some examples of actionable insights?
Absolutely. So it's something like, you could ask, how does average days to close impact my cost per claim? Let's say I'm a leader of a claims team. I want to get an idea of kind of what parts do I have control over? What can I move around and maybe impact the cost per claims and lead to better results? You could say, how does the average, what's the closure ratio of my top performing underwriters and which brokers are they working best with? So I want to really look at submission data and get an idea of which underwriters are performing amazingly with certain agents and which may need some help, which agencies are providing the quality results, things like that.
That's great, Travis. You spoke a little bit about actionable insights being business focused. How do we help our business users, right, when we're talking to them, think about making better decisions?
Yeah, I think the focus has to be on the business problem, right? I think we can get focused on what the reports look like now, or we can focus on kind of the limitations we think exist. But I think in order to really kind of decipher kind of getting the actionable insights, it's about kind of what the business wants. And they get questions from other members of their organization all the time. That kind of is the root of generating actionable insights. So if I'm an underwriter, I'm getting asked questions about how do we increase closure, or how do we increase the policy premiums for the policies we're selling. If I'm a manager leading a claims team, I might want to be able to track average time of completion of certain tasks to forecast my staffing needs based on company objectives. So actionable insights help answer those questions in meaningful ways. But I think the most critical part is having conversations, right? Them telling us what is it that matters in terms of data? What's data that you could see that's going to help you get to solutions and drive results in your business?
Is there a framework or methodology that goes into those conversations to do that?
Absolutely. So there's several. You could have ideation sessions. You could do send out surveys to, let's say you're generating a report for underwriting, you send out a survey to get an idea of what matters to them. Here at OneShield Marketing Solutions, we follow the Badir framework. It comes from a book called Behind Every Good Decision. And it's an amazing book. I highly recommend checking it out. If you're someone that is struggling from going from business questions to generating reports that meaningfully answer those questions. So in this particular presentation, I'll focus on the BA portion of it, but it is something that I highly recommend if you're struggling with going from data to meaningful reports. I highly recommend you checking out that book. It's a fantastic foundation in terms of how do we interact better with business units to get those types of questions answered. So we'll focus on the first two parts: the business question and the analysis plan. For the business question, a big part of that is what's in it for you. What questions are you looking to have the data answer? What is the problem or opportunity? So in asking that question, it seems pretty basic, right? This is kind of the beginning of every conversation in generating a report. You really should have this at the forefront. So an example of this could be, what is the average number of days to resolve a claim by my agent? And if you stop right there, what could easily happen is you're going to end up not getting the full picture, right? You're not going to really get what the requirement is. What is it that the business is hoping to see? And this is where the analysis plan comes in. So, for example, it digs into what are the goals of your analysis, right? So, can you go to the next slide? And in doing that, what you can see is, for example, if you were to say, I expect to see claims are taking longer for my adjusters in New York versus Washington, D.C., given the geographic differences the adjusters cover. Just in getting that piece of information, I know that whatever report I'm generating, there's going to be a regional, maybe a map on the report. And maybe we'll look at magnitude to get an idea of how is average days to close claim in a smaller state or a smaller region different from the average days to close claim in a bigger region. And you might want to generate standards that aren't, company-wide, but focus more on regional. So in looking at data that way, you're able to make more informed decision than if you just stopped at the business question.
That's very helpful. So when I think about conversations I have in the market, Travis, right, talking to various insurers and entities, right, a lot of them have historical databases. They're extracting data out of that. They're using Excel to look at that, right, which clearly might not lend itself to what you were just talking about, right, in terms of some of these visuals and whatnot. So, what solutions are available, or how can people think about this for evolving the reporting that exists out there?
Absolutely. That's a great question. I think every data project will have the following objectives, right? You're going to retrieve, transform, model, visualize, and store the data. Not every report will need to store historical data, but just like you said, some solutions, you can't rely on transactional data. You need to kind of see data in a static form as of given time period to see how things are moving from month to month. So there's software out there that provides a solution that helps you go from data-based query to meaningful reports efficiently. OneShield Market Solution uses Power BI and Azure Data Factory for data visualization and storage. OneShield Enterprises uses Pentaho, but in general, it usually takes more than Prowess and SQL and Excel to build reports that are going to generate actionable insights meaningfully.
That makes sense. So we just talked about the different infrastructure and the frameworks that go into gathering requirements. We're obviously a core system provider. Can you elaborate a little bit more on how core systems can support and provide actionable insights?
Absolutely. So actionable insights require a core system that first is capable of providing what we'll call two-dimensional data that can meet an insurer's needs on day one. So we're not going to focus on regulational requirements here. We're going to focus on kind of on day one, here's the things I need in order to manage my business, right? You may want to see policy details, earned premium, written premium, renewal rate, If we're talking about billing details, you want to see accounts receivable, you want to see what's past due. And for claims, you're going to want to see average days to close, average cost to close, and all that information you might want to break out various ways, right? You might want to break out by region. Maybe you want to see that data in real time, monthly, quarterly. There's a lot of different ways to view this data, and then once you get there, you might want to mix and match kind of different elements to manage your business. But before we can dive into kind of three-dimensional, right, going to the point where we're generating reports that provide actionable insights that's catered to how you manage your business, a company first needs to be, a core system first needs to be good at providing this level of detail and data reliably, so that you can have comfort that, yes, we can now go to the next level when we're generating reports three-dimensionally, when we're focused on specific issues and generating reports that provide clear insights that allows you to take it to the next level.
All right, that's terrific. Before we move on beyond this two-dimensional, which we'll do in a moment here, I think, I just wanted to open up the floor, or maybe I should say remind our attendees that we are looking for your engagement as we go through this. So if you've got questions, feel free to click on that Q&A button on the bottom of your screen and go ahead and input those questions. We will try to address those as we go. And again, any that we don't get to, we're certainly going to try to get in at the end when we have our live Q&A session going on. Okay, now, Travis, so talk about two-dimensional data reporting. What are the next things that we want to consider, really to move to what we're talking about with actionable insights? You got some examples that you can share.
Absolutely. So yeah, once traditional reporting needs have been established, the door is open to have conversations around the type of data the business needs to make their decision-making, take their decision-making to the next level. It's a mix of data sources and approaches. For example, policy and billing data are interrelated. Combining the data in new ways to ask new questions can go a long way. And I'll talk through a few examples that highlight this in greater detail.
All right, and we did have a question come in, so I just want to go ahead and throw this one out here for you. What approaches are used to extract the data from OneShield policy platform? And do you offer a data platform?
Yeah, so I imagine this question is related to, hey, I'm really good with data, and I want to be able to write my own queries. The answer is yes. We have the capability to give you access to a mirror database, which is near real time, pretty much real time, and you're able to do exactly what we'll talk about doing here, right? You can write your own queries, build your own reports that'll allow you to go from I have an idea of looking at data a new way. I'm now going to write a query, build a report that's going to show me specifically what I'm looking at. We have those capabilities that give you access to do just that, to be able to have control of building reports on your own so that you can generate those actionable insights. In general, our solution allows for the ability to use our data sets and open up those data sets directly into Power BI, create your own reports that allow you to generate some of these results in real time.
All right, very good, thank you.
Thanks, Travis. I'd add just for the folks who may have business users that want needs, we're going to talk through examples that we actually provide a full-scale Power BI solution within the application that Travis and his team manage, right? So if you aren't that data person, all of what we're talking about today, we support within both of our applications through the tools that we have. So, but maybe the best thing to do is move into a real-life example, talk about a use case. So we can move on to the next slide. Let me talk through this use case here for the group. So, maybe let's start with, I want a report that gives me a view of the underwriter and broker performance in relation to how many submissions they're turning into sold policies, right? And there are brokers or underwriters that we work with that don't meet the threshold that I'm trying to set as a hit ratio, right? So as a manager, I'm looking at that, and I want to be able to easily compare the results and work with brokers that are not meeting that threshold and reward those that are exceeding expectations. So As I do all that, I want to be able to track progress as I'm working with those underperforming folks, and see if it's what I'm doing is changing their performance over time. How would we think about that, Travis?
Yeah, so I love this example. This is a real example where I was able to have an ideation session with an executive and walk through kind of what their expectations were, and the end result was generating something on a legal pad that then becomes a report that is built and is able to kind of meet and exceed their expectations. So the output that was generated from here is called the underwriter broker scorecard. So you have two tables here. You have an agency scorecard and underwriter scorecard, and each of those provides you data in terms of performance. And right now it is performance by policy premium. So whoever has the highest policy premium, you can see at the top. Whoever's the lowest, you'll see at the bottom. What's great about using a solution like Power BI is that it's open to any manipulation you want. So let's say I want to see if I hit ratio, you can do that quickly. I want to see by conversion ratio. You can, within the report, click on the headers and you'll automatically see those results from highest to lowest, lowest to highest, depending on what you're seeing. But this particular report, what this tells us is it gives us the agency performance, and I'm able to select a given agent, and then I'm able to see to the right how underwriters are performing against that specific agency. So let's say we look at agency one and we see that they're exceeding expectations. Let's go ahead and look and see what underwriters are performing really well with this particular agency. You're able to see that in real time. You're able to see who's performing above whatever those expectations are. So you may decide that, I want to point more submissions to this given underwriter because they have a higher success rate than someone in another area. You could do the same looking at another agency. Let's say there's two agencies you want to review, and there's an agency that you see that is exceeding expectations, and there's another agency that isn't. You're able to filter on those two given agencies and conduct that comparative analysis, but you're also able to have conversations around what's going on with performance. So you could, work with an agency and say, hey, I'm expecting a hit ratio or a number of submissions that turn into policy of 50%. You're performing at 40%. What do we need to do to improve those results? And once you have that conversation, you can then track progress. So if you look at the graph below, you're kind of able to see, all right, let's say I had the conversation in February 2024. Am I seeing that in March, April, and May, I'm seeing better quality in their results? Are they turning more submissions into policies? But also, I also might want to see, are they all of a sudden now not giving me any submissions? So they're giving me half the amount of submissions, and they're all the ones they know are home runs. So I'm not actually, we're not succeeding, right? I still want a high number of submissions, and I want a closure ratio that's high. So you can use a report like this in a way to accomplish a lot of different goals, and it's easy to go from kind of questions to answers. So when we talk about actionable insights, it's something like this. It's turning a business question into a usable report that an end user, for example, this is for an executive. So an executive should be able to easily use something like this and get a lot of their questions answered in real time, have conversations that are meaningful, and see how their conversations are leading to results.
I think you sort of have highlighted it, but for absence of any doubt, what makes this three-dimensional and provides actionable insight as compared to the traditional two-dimensional reports that you were talking about before is that the end user, the executive, doesn't have to go back to reporting to an analyst, to a programmer, to whoever and say, hey, can you run this data this way? They simply can point and click on their screen and get updates both to the underlying data and the visualization, right, Travis?
Absolutely. And I think that, yeah, and I think that's where a solution in Excel, yes, you can do that. You can create pivot tables and all that. That's great. I think, actionable insights requires a level of interactivity that Excel just doesn't meet, right? You want to take your reporting to the next level. You need to have a software solution that allows you to do just that, right? To present a report that's going to provide value, that can really answer questions in real time. And the whole purpose of generating reports like this is results, right? I want to be able to raise questions. I want to be able to make changes to the product and know that my changes are having an impact and see in real time so that I can make decisions in real time.
That's great. Maybe in case we have a variety of folks on the webinar here, maybe let's talk through a claims example as well.
Sure.
To get a view into another part of the business. So I'm coming in as a claims director, claims manager, executive, and I'm starting to think about some of that. Go back to that beginning, right? I'm hypothesizing, trying to think about what I want to learn, and I say, I want to know how closing of claims impacts the total payments I'm making on those claims, right? So. I'm thinking maybe that lingering claims are more expensive. If I'm unsure if this is due to certain adjusters closing claims more efficiently, or maybe some other factor. And I've decided that I'd like to focus in on increasing the number of claims closed within 90 days and compare that to other claims. So ultimately, I want to do some kind of a proof of concept where I'd like to make changes to our procedures and then review how those changes have impacted the cost to close the claims, right? And not just run static reports on both sides, but really kind of see some dynamic of that proof of concept. So walk me through how Actionable Insights can help with that.
Absolutely. And I love this example because I think it shows a few things, right? It shows that, this is an end user that isn't really sure what they're looking for, but they'll know when they see it, right? So we're going to generate a report that's going to give them some flexibility. They might want to see the data in an aggregate form where I want to see kind of my entire business. I want to see how we're performing, or they might want to see that data on an individual basis, right? So for example, an example you see here, there's an adjuster named Laura Peters that is performing amazingly well, right? Their average cost to close claims is dropping substantially, right? So I might want to talk to Laura and get an idea of what is she doing that is causing this type of drop, right? How is she so efficient? Maybe her peers aren't as efficient. I want to figure out what she's doing and bottle it and sell it to everybody on the team. But also, so the first part of the use case kind of asked, if let's say I push up the time frame and I want to close claims quicker, right? Let's say I want to make a push to close more claims within 90-day range. And I want to see between the first quarter and second quarter of 2024, what that actually does to my average total incurred, right? You look at the results in the top left-hand corner, you'd see that the results didn't really meet their expectations. So they expected that, hey, if I close more claims within 90 days, my average cost of total incurred is going to decrease. What they saw in this fake exercise is that it increased. So instead of seeing the results they thought they would see, which is, increasing the number of claims I'm closed within 90 days is going to lead to a lower average cost of claims, the inverse happened. But it's because we're able to visualize the data, because we're able to generate a report that's going to give them those answers, they don't have to speculate anymore. They're now able to see, all right, I had this kind of proof of concept. I thought that, if I close claims quicker, if I was more aggressive at closing claims, maybe I increase the threshold in which I'm able to, write a check without approvals. I thought that would lead to a better result in terms of average cost, and it didn't do that. But the purpose of this exercise is, these types of exercise and building these types of reports is, I want to be able to ask questions where I know the answer at the end of my proof of concept, right? It's no longer me speculating and using, my expertise to answer those questions. I'm now able to either fully confirm my theory and the data supports that. So let's go ahead and go all in on whatever the next proof of concept is, or go from proof of concept to standard practice. In generating reports like this and formatting them in a way that is user-friendly to the end user, they're able to get these questions answered. We're no longer speculating about what the results are. We can now make informed decisions and go forward knowing that we're building something that's valuable, making decisions that we can back by data and see results in areas that matter the most.
Yeah, and I think one thing that's interesting, right, is, as your point, like maybe you do a proof of concept and it proves out to be the opposite of what you thought, but you still have all the data sets and all the tools to do other things. Try those things and see if they end up with the results you want, right? So again, you're not having to go back and rebuild a report, or you've taken the data out into Excel and now you got to go through all of those steps again 3 months later when you run the next proof of concept, right? So that's the value, again, of having true three-dimensional reporting as part of the data set overlaying your core system.
Yes, and you're absolutely right. And I think what's great about an example like this is that you'll see that not every data element is intuitive to just the core system or the data model. For example, that days range element is something that would be generated in your data output in your reporting solution, so that I can now bucket my data in a way that I can see, hey, does it make sense to look at claims between 0 to 90, 90 to 180? Let's say I look at these results and I think, there's a huge difference between claims that are 180 days or less and those that are older, right? We now have a way to see how to bucket data in ways that are useful. So I think it's the core system plays a valuable role in being able to provide kind of the base data you need to generate reports, but then it's up to kind of your reporting solution, creativity, allowing you to see data in new ways that are meaningful.
All right, no, this is terrific, and I think the reports that you're demoing here are absolutely fantastic. I did have a couple questions come in. One of them I thought we just go ahead and address right now because it's kind of a follow-on to that first question, and that is, how do we get the transformation rules along with the data from the OneShield policy platform?
Transformation rules.
So John, I might step in here a little bit, right? Sounds like the questioning person might maybe a client, maybe interested in being a client and is thinking about how are they getting data out of our system, that mirror database that Travis is talking about, and moving into something that's a reporting solution, right? We work with all of our customers on those particular needs. So if somebody is a prospective customer or a existing customer, we would work with them to do that transformation. I don't want to give the general market our secret sauce on how that data transformation occurs, right, on a webinar, because I know Travis could get into it, but I don't think that's the right. But the key, I think, whether it be us or any other core system provider, that is exactly it, which is understanding the data and the transformation that occurs to make it reportable is an important part of the process to work collaboratively with your vendors on in the marketplace.
Absolutely. Thank you. So as we wrap up the discussion on this, can you provide an overview of the lessons that you learned working on implementations with multiple clients?
Absolutely. I think one big one is reporting needs are core system needs. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of creative ways where a core system can hide, I think, the elements critical to generating amazing reports, right? So if your core system is kind of, I think, if your reporting solution is going along for the ride for core system kind of building out an application, I think you're going to run into issues. For example, you could build a rater and store a lot of valuable information that would be great for reports inside the rater and not have that data stored in the database in order to use for reporting, right? So it's important that as you're kind of building out your reporting solution, that your core system is solid, that it is storing all the valuable data that's necessary in order to generate valuable reports for clients. I think another element is reporting requirements should be provided as early on in implementation or product change as possible. I think that there's elements within a report that can even inform how one would put together, let's say, pages in the application or elements like that. So the more we kind of work in conjunction, the more the reporting team is working with the team that is building out new functionality, implementing functionality for the clients, the more you're going to end up in a situation that you're able to build fantastic reports. I think it's easy to see reports as what you do after you've built the application. In reality, reports are something that you have a focus on at the forefront, right? It's something that when you're taking on, when you're bringing in initial requirements from a client, when you're taking in that change request from a client, the reporting impact has to be considered from the onset. And when you do that, you're going to have a much happier client because you'll be able to build reports just as quickly as you're able to make changes to the application. In reference to change the application, core system flexibility is critical. Your product is going to evolve. You might go from a product that is a single state policy with risks in one state to scenario where you have a policy that has multiple risks within a single policy, and you're going to want to factor that in your core system, but also in your reporting solution. So you want to have a core system that's flexible, that can roll with those changes, right? The harder it is to make a change, those core system issues are going to run into issues when you want to build a report off those issues as well. So if you have a core system that's flexible, that is used to making changes to the data model while still maintaining the integrity of the data model, so that you can build good reports, you're going to be in much better shape than if you don't have that reality.
Yeah, I think if you kind of summarizing all of what Travis is talking about, one of the things to think about, right, is reporting the questions that we're talking about that business users want to ask. Be asking those as you're implementing new products, as you're making changes. Make sure that your core system is collecting that data, right? There's a lot of older systems out there that have sort of the black box rating, I'll call it, right? Where you throw in all the data elements and you just get an end result rate at the end. You don't have all the other things that went into the calculation. You're not storing any of that stuff. Well, you can lose some potential actual insights without all of that. When you understanding the questions as you're making product changes that you might want, maybe you're going from a traditional commercial property product and a separate inland marine product to an AAIS COP product, right? And you might have the business leadership might have some questions about how is that product performing differently than our old product. Make sure those questions are on the table as you're going through that product implementation, like Travis is talking about, so that you're collecting the right information to measure and provide actual insights going forward. So I think, thinking about this in the beginning and throughout the process, to Travis's point, and then having the flexibility in a system, whether it be a system like OneShield or any other system out there, to maintain that data and collect that data to be able to then generate actual insights.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right. Fantastic. And we do have some time left now for Q&A. So again, to our folks who are watching this session, please use that button. Click the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Go out there, type in a question. We'd love to hear what questions you've got. If we don't get to all of them, we will follow up with you separately. So I did have a question. You were just talking about the core system and kind of, I'll just say, the better functionality and fidelity that you've got, probably going to get you are going to get a better result. Are there really constraints? I don't want to say, is there a minimum point, but I believe what I'm hearing is this can be leveraged with many, many different policy systems. So are there some limitations on that? And if you could talk a little bit more about what the added flexibility and fidelity can really do for a company.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I would say there aren't many limitations in terms of, once you have the data out of your system, you're able to build reports off of that rather simply. So I'll focus on Power BI, kind of my experience. And I have ideation sessions where I don't have Power BI in front of me. I have a notepad and I'm drawing out a reporting solution. And we're able to convert those thoughts, kind of how do we want to display the data in a way that is useful in Power BI, because Power BI is a very flexible tool that is, the leader in the industry in this particular function. So there's very few limitations. Once you're able to extract data from your core system, it is rather simple and very user-friendly to go from kind of idea to report using that data and manipulating various ways to make it useful for the end user.
Yeah, and I'd add, John, right, to a certain part of your question, all the concepts that we're talking about today, yes, we are a core system provider. We utilize them in our systems, the systems that we have, and sell to insurers. But these concepts are applicable across the industry, no matter what your core system is, with the limitation, to your point about fidelity, quality, all those other things. Some of the historical sort of legacy systems that are out there may not be collecting all those data points, and that may be the limiter. But if you're on a modern core system collecting data points, these concepts can be used by any of them. And then to Travis's point, there are multiple, we use Power BI with OneShield Market Solutions. We use Pentaho with OneShield Enterprise. There's other solutions like Tableau that are out there. So there's multiple visualization and reporting tools, and certainly, pluses and minus to all of them. But there's nothing in this webinar that says you have to work with OneShield to be able to get these kind of results, right? It's the concepts of actionable insights, 2-dimensional versus 3-dimensional reporting, that I think are the value that folks can walk away with. And obviously we try to deliver to our clients.
Absolutely. And I'd argue you could have a large team with data scientists, a large amount of data analysts, and BI developers, and not build reports that generate actionable insights. And I think the biggest element, and I think that's one of the things we wanted to highlight in this presentation, is the way in which you take in requirements is critical. The way in which you get the business involved, the way in which you have conversations around how to go from kind of requirement requests to actionable insights is the most critical element in all of this. In the book Behind Every Good Decision, the example they provided was kind of this huge corporation spent a lot of resources in developing a huge team to build reports, and the end result was meaningless because they didn't know how to go from kind of business requests to requirements. So I think that part is the most critical. Having those conversations. I'm a big proponent of talking more and building less. We should be talking more to make sure we're speaking the same language. We're looking to build the exact same reports. And if we talk, 10% more, we'll probably develop 75% less. So I'm a big proponent of that.
Excellent. So data question. So what are the data standards that you're using? So I guess that question, without asking you about transformation of data from point A to point B, but really what, is there a specific data standard that a company needs to be following, or is this where you guys jump in and help to make it happen?
So yes, and a lot of this is going to be core system driven, right? So your core system needs to be have a data model that is efficient, right? If you don't have that, your core system is going to run pretty slow anyway. So building reports is going to probably be the least of your worries. But I think the schema starts in the application, starts in your core system, having something that is coherent, that isn't repetitive or redundant. But I do think, but there's also standards, right? So Power BI has kind of star schema standards. So when I'm building a report, I know based on the Microsoft standards what a star schema should look like in order to build a report that runs efficiently. There's a bunch of different ways to do it. When you do it wrong, because it takes you a very long time to pull very small amounts of data. I think the standards are, when I'm writing a query, I know what an efficient one looks like, right? I know because it doesn't take forever for me to pull, a single line from the database. So there's absolutely standards. Depending on your solution, they'll probably recommend standards. So Microsoft recommends standards for star schemas, and we look to follow that when we build our reports because the reports run faster, and it puts it in a position to be able to interact really, really well with Copilot for generating kind of AI reports. So, but I think depending on your solution, and there's just basic standards for kind of database modeling that apply to building reports, collecting data from the database as well.
Excellent. So I've got a couple of questions here. One of them kind of going back to reports, and I think this is an interesting one. I'm sure it's an easy answer for it, but it's an interesting one.
I hope so.
Can these reports or analytics be sent by email to a set of recipients automatically?
So depending on your solution, there's a lot of different options. Let's focus on just Power BI. That's my baby. So we'll talk about that one. So you can send a report through PowerPoint. You can send a report through SharePoint, and those reports can be stored there and living reports that anyone can have access to. I'm not a big, and it's feasible. You could absolutely send a link to a report that'll connect you to a particular location that gives you a live version of the report. So there's a lot of solutions. You can absolutely have a living, breathing report in an email. I'm not a fan of like I'll take a screenshot of the report and put in the email. that breaks my heart, right? But there's a lot of ways in order to have the data living and breathing so that you can actually manipulate it, because everyone might want to see something different within that given report. So you can, but I would recommend SharePoint or a different solution. You can embed a report anywhere you want. So there's
I was going to, Travis, to your point, I'm just going to almost kind of take that same thing. The thing that came to my mind is folks who want an emailed report, like an Excel or a PDF or something like that. That's living in the two-dimensional reporting world. And there are certainly types of reports that's needed and meaningful for, but the living and breathing report that Travis is talking about is the truly three-dimensional actual insights. And so you're going to lose the ability if you're sending a static visual or whatnot out to somebody for the ability to go, yeah, but I want to see, to Travis's point, instead of 0 to 90 days, I want to see 0 to 180 versus in 180 plus. I want to change that right now on the fly. I want to see this underwriter right now versus that underwriter right now. You can't do that in the traditional send a report out to the executive team, right? That's what we're talking about, and that is the difference, and what we're trying to get away from, of that sort of static into sort of the dynamic, giving the end user the ability to start moving those things around.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it too. So I've been in data for a while, and the old school way of doing things was you extract the data, you manipulate it in Excel, you make it look pretty, and then you send it to the CEO. CEO comes back to follow-up questions. I then manipulate the data more, get it over to the CEO again, right? CEO's follow-up questions, and we do this thing over and over again. I think when we're talking about generating actionable insights for our clients with the end user being focused, if I'm building something for the CEO, it should be user-friendly to the CEO. And he's going to have the follow-up question, because that's natural, right? When I see that our sales are down by 10%, I'm going to know specifically what line of business is causing that. Maybe I want to know what's going on with our closure ratio, as far as what's changed, what agency is kind of leading to the drop. And in order to ask those questions and answer them, I want to build a report that the CEO can go to that is user-friendly, that they can kind of do that kind of on their own, and not have to wait for me to crunch the numbers in Excel and resend it over.
All right, no, that was a terrific response. I mean, at the end of the day, what I'm hearing is the value is in getting that third dimension. You send your folks a link, whatever, get them to the point where they can actually get in and exercise that report for all that it's worth, as opposed to kind of here's a screenshot.
Yes.
Yeah. No, that's terrific. Another thing related to the reports, I think the charts that you demoed for us are outstanding. As an individual client, at what level can somebody customize reports? They've got very specific needs, and could be that maybe they've got a better depth of data, and they want to be able to look at some factors that aren't important.
Yes, I think there's two parts to that. I think the first is, like, I want to build reports that the CEO can customize, right? And in order to do that, you generate reports that are flexible, right? So I think that there's kind of let's call it 2.5 dimension reporting, which is I can make changes to kind of the focus of the output based on what I need. So let's say it's a policy transaction report. I might want to see policy transactions by state, right? I want to build a report that can easily do that, so that you don't have to build it on your own. Anyone can do it. Anyone in the company can do it. And if they spend kind of 5 seconds in the report, they'll know how to do that. I think that's the first thing. If you're looking to make your own custom report, we have that capability at OneShield, where you're able to take a data set. We have clients that do this. We have kind of curated data sets. They're able to take those data sets, build reports, custom reports in real time based on whatever the use case calls for. I think my goal is always to kind of build the report before they ask the question. So if I want, if I have an ad hoc request and I'm looking to build something really quick, I think the old way of doing things would be that it's going to take me a while to write the query to get those results. I want to be able to build reports that can easily be manipulated, so that it's not a query you're writing. You're checking a few boxes, so you have the output in the report, and then you can see the results in real time.
Yeah, and I think John, I just add, I'm going to wear my salesman hat a little bit. I know that's not the point of this webinar, but one of the things I think on Travis's team and our team and our enterprise product as well, that we would hang our hats on is that we're there fully to support our clients. So even if they don't have that person who can go build their own query, like they can say, these are my business questions and my need, and it can be configured and customized to their needs, right? So it's not just here's a base set of reports. There is, and it's, or you build it on your own. There is somewhere in the middle where our team of experts is there to support you all along the way. And we do think that's a little bit net difference between us and some others in the market, where it's here's our base reports, or go do your own thing. Those are your two options. And we feel like we've got that full scale. And I think everybody on this call can understand Travis's expertise, and he tries to bring that for all of our customers.
All right, fantastic. Thank you. Yeah, I think I'd want Travis to build it for me instead of me trying to do it myself. All right. So, John and Travis, thank you. This has been a great discussion, and thanks for the engaging conversation, and also thanks to all of our attendees for the questions. That's all the time that we have for today. We want to thank you for attending this AAIS webinar. If you missed any of the discussion, you will be able to watch a replay on our on-demand library on the AAIS YouTube channel in the coming weeks. We will also send a follow-up email to our follow-up email with our contact information, as well as a link to the video recording. And please feel free to contact one of our engagement managers with any questions, or if you would like an introduction to our partner, OneShield, or need any additional information about any AAIS products and services. Please enjoy the rest of your afternoon.